1, 2, 3, here we go with the Leo Zagami show with Leo and Christy Zagami and our weekly exploration in the occult side of the Illuminati here on YouTube, Facebook, and from today, band.video. Yes. We have something to say, of course, because we had a little bit of a misunderstanding with Alex. We finally managed to sort things out. Without going too much into the detail, there were some faults on both sides, I guess. Not from Alex personally, but probably some of his staffers, but also there was some sabotage, really. Some sabotage with mail tampering, with, of course, close monitoring that unfortunately it's constantly done both on me and also on the InfoWars staff. That's why even when they were not using the emails from their own service provider, their own InfoWars staff emails, they were using maybe Gmail or other forms of emails. Well, I couldn't get them. They were just put into spam. So this breaking...
I told you to check your spam folder, and then you saw them in there after.
But there was also some other problems without, like I said, going too much into the details. In the end, we finally sorted out. As good Christians should always sort things out. We were able to forgive each other and move further, because it's important to move further in this info world.
It's also important to say you're sorry. And so I did. I said I'm sorry, and I apologized to Alex. I felt like as soon as I said that, it was like, you guys know me and you know how I am, and I don't ever like say anything like that about anybody. So for me to say like that kind of thing, it was so unchristian, and I'm glad that that he was able to forgive us. So for that, I mean, it was just not nice. So
no, there was some problems that occurred, and in the end, really, the proof is in the pudding. So if Alex gave me this band.video channel,
then he is the tip of the spear,
and
that's it.
And that's why he deserves the Leo Zagami Tip of the Spear edition, which of course is different from this weekly exploration into the occult side of the Illuminati that we will continue to relay here on Facebook, on YouTube, and also on band.video. So if you want to go back to part 25, 24, 23, we have all the segments, all the parts that you want of this series in my YouTube channels. No, you can find them there, also on Rumble. Well, we are trying our best to be present, and it's really I'm really thankful for having a channel on band.video, because certain things can't be said any longer because of a big tech here on some platforms. So for my news, let's say, my news adventures, well, you can find me there, and you can definitely have the most unusual geopolitical and occult analysis of all the weekly events with the Tip of the Spear edition of the Leo Zagami Show. But let's move further after this introduction made by me and my wife, Christy Zagami. We have also to thank our sponsors, because this show is sponsored by you, who are our viewers. So who are today's sponsors, Christy?
Thank you very much for everybody that donated and everybody that bought the books. I think I missed some people last week, and so I want to also say their names as well. But we have Douglas Miller and Brett McGovern and Layla Modfis. I hope I said that okay. And Joseph Strugish, thank you. Thomas Birmingham, thank you. Corey Chavez, thank you so much. Holly, I think that's Blue Juju, thank you so much. And Ellen Sukatris, we didn't say your name, I'm sorry. You did that a while ago, so thank you. And of course, we can never forget Bruce. So that's it, and thank you so much. We really appreciate that you're supporting us and supporting the show, and that's how you show that you appreciate us. So, and with a like and a share, and that's good too.
And of course, you can support us through Cash App, through GoFundMe, and through Fundly. I will, of course, post the Fundly link here on the screen soon. But first of all, somebody is telling me number 24 is not on YouTube. Well, yeah, number 24, if you remember, was censored.
What was that one?
It was the one
don't talk about it.
No, it was the one about sexual magic. I guess they didn't like some of the images. But in any case, you can find it on Rumble. So
we don't have all of them then.
I guess that no, but actually
I thought
I think we have them, because I think that I managed to edit that little image, and I think actually that either on the Leo Zagami show or Lesule, one of the two main channels that I broadcast from, there is definitely the number 22. I have to look into it, but I think yes, it was actually posted after again. Okay, so here we are with a subject which is a very interesting subject, which also in a way will see a personal participation by my wife Christy, because the origins of the New Age deceptions, but in some way there are many, the deception of this New Age movement. Now, what is the New Age movement?
We didn't dance.
Oh.
Everybody likes to dance. We have to dance.
Okay. Here we go. The Leo Zagami show.
Everybody!
Saturday.
Everybody stand up and dance.
July 1st. Of the year of the Lord 2023.
When you have God in your heart, it's a joy to be alive and you want to dance.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. So what we're talking about today, so also Christy involved some moment you had in your life in which you dedicated some of your time to this New Age deception. We will be discussing that.
Okay.
With you. Yeah, so that's going to be rather interesting. Okay, so here we go. As this is kind of a rich subject, so I would like to get immediately into it. And this is very important. The New Age movement is not really born out of nothing in the 70s. It wasn't just, it just didn't come out of one day, people started talking about the New Age. No. There is a long history to the New Age movement that brings us back to people like Madame Blavatsky, the Theosophical Society, Franz Hartmann, of course, but then Edgar Cayce. We have a lot. I mean, if you want to go even before, I mean, people have started to talk about the New Age, like Emanuel Swedenborg. When you go into the occult really roots and elements that surround the New Age, you are really astonished to see also the ignorance that often many New Agers have about this New Age movement, because they don't really know where it comes from.
Ignorance and innocence.
Innocent.
Some people are innocently just
yes
trying to find answers.
In a way, you were amongst this, no? You.
Well, it was done very. I don't know if you could say it was done innocently, but it still had all of the repercussions of it as if I was doing it not innocently. I mean, it was the same result. So no matter what I thought, I always say, well, I wasn't doing anything. I was just reading books. But apparently that was enough. So that's enough for you to just pick up the book and read it. And it's enough for you to separate yourself from God enough so that you don't hear him. You don't hear the intuition in your messages. So, I mean, that's what happened to me. And as soon as that happened, like I always had this strong connection with God, and it was like less. And so I felt it. And when I felt it, I didn't understand. And so, you just try to do what you're doing more, and you don't realize what you're doing. So.
That's a good start to our investigation. Now, 42% of Americans believe in animism, for example, which we will kind of tend to put in the New Age classification. 41% of Americans believe in psychics, which is also part of the New Age denomination. 33% believe in reincarnation, and 29% in astrology. Now, these percentages have grown, and because this poll was conducted in 2018 by an organization which is called the Pew Research Center, and it was actually done originally in 2009. So, you know, a lot of people believe in the New Age ideas, because then the New Age, the New Age movement has various precursors. You have also the UFO religions of the 50s. You have the New Thought movement. New Thought movement, for example, even Trump followed one of the gurus of this New Thought movement, of this positive movement, pushing for positivity, not necessarily for some weird yoga practices and things like that. But of course, the Theosophical Society was at the center of it all. The Theosophical Society inspired a lot of the New Age movement. Madame Blavatsky, she started this thing in 1875, but she started after already attempting, as we discussed in the episode we dedicated to Spiritism. Now, she attempted to create a Spiritist group in 1871, then kind of moved on, and then went on to create this Theosophical Society with some elements that were kind of heavily involved with Spiritism, and herself was seen as a medium. So the person, though, that more than the others used this term New Age for the first time within the Theosophical movement was Alice Ain Bailey. And then you have, of course, many people who have used the term New Age before that. It has been used also in sometimes in a political or geopolitical context, the New Order of the Ages, 1782, the Great Seal of the United States of America, or later on also, I think Gorbachev also talked about a new age. And I must say one thing, you know what? I noticed this when I started going to Russia in the middle of the 90s. And of course, it was just the beginning of a new era in Russia after the Soviet Union had prohibited every form of spirituality, of religion. And these people were so eager to receive anything spiritual that they immediately embraced, of course, all the various New Age gurus.
In Russia?
Yeah, they went immediately into, I mean, Madame Blavatsky came from Russia, if you think about it. I mean, she was born in Ukraine, of course, Dnipro, but it was at that time part of Russia. So it's like this New Age, of course, is something that we see also these days, unfortunately, reflected in a sad. I think it's a sad thing. I think it's a sad thing. When you have a group that basically goes around saying during Pride March that they want your children, well, that is a pretty serious thing, and of course it's very shocking. This group is the fairies, the radical fairies, is by a man-boy lover from the NAMBLA Association, which is a pedophile association. It's connected to the New Age movement. They say they are New Age. So they are coming for your children. I showed this video also during the episodes, the first two episodes, second episode of my Leo Zagami Show Tip of the Spear edition, because the guy, he is, of course, a Marxist. He's a pedophile openly because he belongs to a known association that supports pedophilia. But the radical fairies are also describe themselves as part of the New Age movement, as embracing this New Age movement. And all of them talk about an age of Aquarius. Now, we don't really understand when this age of Aquarius might occur, but some New Agers tend to think it was in the early 60s when there was a peculiar planetary conjunction.
Is in the seventh house.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is, and I think at the time it was actually a guy called, I remember it was Samuel Aun Weor. Yes. Samuel Aun Weor, who is, of course, quite known in various initiatic circles, was a neo-Gnostic philosopher, and he said that on February 4th, 1962, there was the beginning of the age of Aquarius, because there was this alignment of 6 planets, the sun, the moon, and the constellation of Aquarius. So then you can sing your song.
I only know that one.
But then also we have the link between the New Age, of course, and the human potential movement, which was also very important movement within the flower power movement, brainwashed and controlled, as I say, in volume 8, of course, by the CIA in various ways, LSD and all the rest. Volume 8 is the book that in that case you need to. But there is another book that I wrote, Volume 7, in which instead you can find the roots of this New Age within the Austrian and German Illuminati, because one of the main figures that really influenced the theosophy early start was Franz Hartmann. Franz Hartmann, that was also, at least Theodor Heuss said that, the co-founder of the Ordo Templi Orientis, that later on will, of course, become the order associated with Aleister Crowley. So all these elements are connected, because Franz Hartmann is very much known because at one point he went to a place called Mount Verità, Ascona, Switzerland. He was brought there by the head of I think it was the Milanese branch of the Theosophical Society, who was a Swiss guy in 1889. He brought him to this place in Switzerland, and him and other theosophists they were dreaming of building a monastery there, a sort of monastery for the theosophists. It never really immediately materialized the sole idea. Later on, though, some people managed to purchase some land there, and it became filled with all these people, from Carl Gustav Jung to other people. They all started to become interested in going to Mount Verità, because people there were hanging out naked, doing vegetarianism, all kinds of things that we see now in this kind of New Age communities. So what do the New Agers really believe in? Because they are sort of pantheists. They believe God is really in every aspect, in everything around us. But there is, of course, one phrase that I would like to remind from Matthew 24:11, which is, many false prophets will rise and deceive many, for false Christ and false prophets will arise and show great signs and wonders, so as to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. You have been warned. The the New Age movement is basically spreading because in our society it's easy to just adopt a non-religion, because really it's not, there is not, I mean, it's such a mix, you know, you can, it's like going in a supermarket of spirituality, of religion, and picking up only the things you like and leaving the things, you know, that's, I think you had that, tell me if you had that kind of impression when you started to get involved in it.
Well,
and their fascination with crystals, their fascination with certain practices. You studied the books of Israel Regardie.
I think I gave myself a free pass because it wasn't Satanism, you know, like I wasn't worshiping the devil. I wasn't doing anything bad. So I just gave myself this pass to do this stuff, and it wasn't right. So you should listen to your intuition. Because I got the signs from my, you know.
I mean, you have Eastern mysticism, so you start getting fascinated by Buddhism, by Hinduism, by Taoism. Isn't that
Buddhism? It was Buddhism that got me. I mean, Buddhism. I mean, I love Japan, so I'm not going to say anything about Buddhism. The Japanese people were the nicest people I ever met, and they're the most honest that I ever met.
But they're not necessarily the most religious, so they have their own interpretation of reality. I mean, sometimes they say you are born Shinto, you die Buddhist in Japan. It's definitely a country which has a very particular relation, but it's their own thing. I mean, you know, it's definitely their own thing. You have also, I notice within the New Age, a lot of Gnosticism, a lot of neo-Gnosticism. I mean,
I met those guys.
Of course, they
knew a lot. They thought they knew a lot.
They always think they know a lot. The Gnostics, always, the old Gnostics, 2,000 years ago at the time of Christ, the new Gnostics. In fact, in my new book, Volume 9, which will be coming out this summer, I have a whole chapter that will explain you a lot of things about the connections and the roots of the Illuminati Gnosticism. So it's like they teach that everything physical is evil. You know, that is their idea. And then, of course, you have various ways of various schools of thoughts in Gnosticism. So it's a very complex matter that we will not touch now. But of course, we have always the prior episode of Illuminati Occult that you can always go and check out on my YouTube channels for any reference. But then you have this, like I said, Gnosticism. You have to understand, Gnosticism at times mixes elements that they claim are from the voice, you know, from Jesus, from his disciples, but then it's a bit, you know, doubtful they really are at times, especially with certain practices. But having said that, another thing with New Age is neo-paganism. You know, there is a form of neo-paganism, the nature worship, the witchcraft, the animism.
I never did that stuff. I never did that.
Okay, but you could see that it was all there.
Yeah.
And what kind of practices did you do?
Did I do?
I mean, with these crystals and things, you know?
I did. I manifested good things for like my family and my friends, and I just made like nice crystals, and then I put the flowers around them, and or candles or something, and then I said like, I hope that you know, this or that. But it's like it's the putting the intention into the crystal, and like you're making the crystal do something, and you're not supposed to do that. And so I didn't get it. So I was just like doing this stuff, and it was having a bad, because no matter what I thought about it, it wasn't right. And so I was not connected to what I needed to be connected to at a very important time. And so, you know, it was just like, I was at my weakest when I should have been my strongest. They used everything. I just felt like I was surrounded by demons all the time. I mean, things would happen all the time that never happened before. You know, I started doing this stuff. It was like, woo! It was like everything, you know.
meditation. Now, can meditation be a positive thing, or is it always something that you should be aware of, because you can open really the doors of the demonic realm with meditation? I mean, it seems a lot of people have benefits from this, no?
Yeah.
So how you will explain that?
Well, the meditation part was the most dangerous part for me personally, because I was opening myself to everything, you know, anything and everything comes to me, you know. But I feel like mindfulness is a good thing, and it's a good way to be. Like, is that New Age? Because like I still practice mindfulness. Like, I'm in my place, what I'm doing, and I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. So I mean, because the New Age, like they always say to be mindful. Like you want to practice mindfulness, and I don't even know if that's New Age or what that is. It just might be just psychology. I don't know. But
well,
yeah.
we see that. I mean, how was this New Age born? Really, it was born because, you know, the Illuminati, the Age of Enlightenment, brought a lot of rationale into the equation. No, everybody tended to become, you know, a scientific rationality was coming, you know, and then at that point, at the beginning of the 19th century, occultism, then spiritism, and all these non really rational ideologies kind of like counteracted the Age of the Enlightenment of the 18th century Europe. It kind of like was like, you know, a part of society was becoming really resentful of religion, especially because they identified, for example, Christian religions with the Christian institutions of the time, mainly the Catholic Church, or other institutions that were and are still to this day corrupted. There seems to be, how do you think the New Agers view Christians, Christian? Because that is something interesting. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, New Age came from a Christian mystic like Emanuel Swedenborg in a way, but then there is the whole Theosophical Society thing that brought all this Eastern thing, and then of course Franz Hartmann brought also his very wide knowledge of Rosicrucianism, and then everybody was bringing in things. So this New Age is very rich of elements. No?
It has nothing to do with being Christian, and you can't be Christian and practice New Age. So you just can't. It's not, you know, everything on God's side is balance, and so you've taken the balance off, and so you can't really. You might think you're a Christian, but you're not. I mean, you're not really, because you're not listening to God anymore. So
I talk about also the New Age in Volume 1, and of course this is also because there used to be a magazine that was published by a magazine that was published even in Italy by the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite, but it was published also here in America, called New Age. Let's remember that the Theosophical Society was really promoted quite widely by British Freemasonry and the whole network of British Freemasonry. So here we are, though, in front of a phenomenon that seems to fade in certain periods, maybe for a decade or two, and then re-emerges. And it's re-emerging quite strong now, also in connection to ufology. Now, we have already done a whole episode regarding maybe that, so we don't want to go back into maybe a further discussion of ufology, because I think we did a kind of a good job. So if you want, just check out our past episode on ufology. But the ufology is a deception that, of course, is part of the New Age deception. So
a lot of people don't understand that.
You had particular experiences related to ufology when you were doing these practices. You want to talk about it or not?
Well, I don't have any of those things now.
Mhm.
But when I was, yeah, all kinds of.
I mean, you
stuff.
you saw something one
Well, some
night.
really, I mean, something really scary happened to me one time.
Mhm.
I wrote about it. I think I wrote about it in volume 1. But it was when we moved into our new house in Subiaco, and Leo had gone out for a conference, and it was my first night there by myself, and I was getting ready to go to bed, and I don't know, the whole place around that whole area felt strange and very UFO vibe to it.
Yeah, well, actually, the local guy who had a bar, I mean, just, he was not the kind of guy you will associate with UFOs in a million years, or UAPs as they call them today. But the guy serving at the local bar had been literally abducted for 2 days, and he was found in a farm after 2 days with implants and stuff, and he became a phenomenon. I mean, in the 50s, we're talking about the 1950s, in the countryside, in the middle of nowhere in Italy,
where we were living.
It was.
And then so I had this, I knew about this, of course. I had known about this already, so I already knew that there was this UFO thing there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty strong, and I felt it a lot when we were there. But that night was really scary because I was in the room with Rambo, and Rambo was actually, he was reacting, like, really, like, he was on the edge of the bed. I had, like, these French doors that closed, and there was this blue light that went all around, and it was just vibrating. I don't know. I explained it pretty good in my book, but, I mean, everything felt like it was vibrating. My head, and even Rambo was vibrating, and he was shaking, and he was so upset that I got so worried about him that I didn't care, and I picked him up and I took him out of the room, and like a dum-dum, I went outside, like probably the last thing you're supposed to do if there's a UFO, but I did, and I went out there and there was nothing. So I don't know what was going on, but it went back into its vortex and disappeared. Freaked me out, and then it disappeared. So yeah, that happened. So, and the thing is that stayed with me even after it happened. I remembered, and it put fear inside of me. Yeah. New Age put a lot of fear in me that I didn't normally have. Yeah. And so I felt I was living in a fearful way and always afraid. And I ended up getting OCD from this stupid thing. And so, I mean, really, so many bad things happen. I wrote a book about it. So there you go.
I see in the chat friend Christian Harris. We say hello to Christian, who, by the way, has also his
Kristen.
own band.video channel. What's his name? The channel?
Rundown Live.
Rundown. I always get everything wrong. It's okay. Going further with the subject of the new age, they seem to believe also in animal magnetism. That of course was a subject that was pioneered by Mesmer, known Illuminati, Freemason, and of course what he was really talking about was hypnotism. But he used to sell it to the masses like some kind of magnetic fluid that hypnotizes you. But in any case, animal magnetism is something that we also find in the New Age movement. But just to make an example, we have seen the Dalai Lama recently with that child kissing and stuff, and the Dalai Lama is a strange guy. I mean, you once you met him, you had an encounter with the Dalai Lama, but
maybe he showed his perverted side.
The Dalai Lama was inducted in 2011 as an honorary member during the U.S. Congress of the Theosophical Society. Just so you understand here, the U.S. The U.S. Theosophical Society, just like all the other Theosophical societies, had some very important roles that they have played in our history. People don't imagine that, but for example, when it comes to Nazis, the symbol, the swastika, was inspired by a publication by Franz Hartmann, and I write about it in volume 7 of my confession. So it's very important to understand. There is, and then also the influence on the United Nations by the Theosophical Society. I mean, these are not just eccentrics that did their own things and didn't influence anybody. They influenced millions of people, because then maybe without that theosophical milieu, without that occultistic background in Austria that surrounded Adolf Hitler, maybe he will not have turned out, he will not have become what he became. I mean, he was an artist. He would have just probably stayed like a failed painter in his dreams and things. Instead,
that would have been great.
That would have been great for millions of Jewish people. So, I mean, that definitely we need to understand that. Somebody is talking about Marco Paré, and that's very interesting that Bruce mentioned Marco Paré, because he was in my lodge in Monte Carlo. I know him personally. So Marco Paré,
that guy?
yeah, I mean, I met Marco Paré recently, well, 5 years ago, I think in Nice. We kind of like made up, it's not a problem. I mean, we never really had a beef with Marco Paré, simply that he is the creator of neurolinguistic and NLP-free, and he's a very knowledgeable guy. He's a disciple, though, of Giampiero Giudicelli. I mean, he's number one disciple, Marco Paré, of Giudicelli. Marco Paré, no, you never met him, because it's always, you were not with me in Nice when I met him the last time, when I went to Nice, you remember, in 2016 or something. And basically, yes, Marco Paré, he is very much into magnetism, mesmerism, because Giudicelli and the whole work we were doing in the Monte Carlo Lodge for many years was focused on all that. So he's... what
was it focused on? What were you doing in there? We want to know.
No, well, when it comes down to...
Is that why you're so magnetic? Woo, woo, woo. Ooh, I feel it. I mean,
all that, I think that basically Paré, like Giudicelli, they are very much, I mean, they were part also of this organization known as Alpha International, which is based in Montpellier, an association or quite close association of people practicing practicing what Gurdjieff was really teaching and bringing it one step further. So occult practices that are not really evocations of any kind. But in the case of Marco Paré, I have been critical of him in volume 1 of my Confessions, and I talk about him regarding the fact that it's all about, when you are doing those regressive hypnosis and stuff, and you are really mingling with entities that can surface immediately out of nowhere in one of those sessions. And I think there is even a video on YouTube where he actually does this kind of thing. So I've talked about him, I think, extensively in volume 1. In connection also to Corrado Malanga, to what Malanga was doing with his supposed way of exorcising with this new method of exorcism. I don't believe in these new exorcist methods, though, to tell you the truth. I mean, I think I even have a picture here or something. So, yes, this is a picture of Marco Paré. So. If you want, Bruce, just check it out, and you can read interesting manifestation of these entities in his hypnotic regression techniques. Now, people like Paré very much are into that milieu, that kind of like it's an in-between. It's not really the new age of the masses, but it's more like... it's like Giudicelli. It's more like it's more elitarian.
So does that make that better?
No, not necessarily.
If you have money, is it okay to do it? No.
No, but I mean, what I notice is, in fact, that these people are trying in some way to return to the more occultistic, pure roots of it all, without any of the new age
rainbows and stuff.
Yes, going more to, like I noticed, for example, when I was working with them, very much the work they were doing on Franz Mesmer, on mesmerism, was based on his old practices, because then, from there comes the legacy of hypnotism and then mind control and everything else that comes with it. So, I mean, these people are expert mind controllers. I mean, Marco Parres was always very... I remember him even the last time I met him,
Do you try to control your mind?
No! Please. That sounds like that movie, with the schmucks.
Mind control.
Brain
control.
Whatever. In any case, what they have here with that kind of scenario is they're very much connected with Buddhism, from what I understand. They have a direct relation with the monastery, Buddhist monasteries, like Tibetan Buddhist monasteries that do certain practices and things. And I think they are very much, though Paré is very much into experimenting. He's a medical doctor. Then you go into a further stage of realization when you start to develop your own methods, like he did with the neuro-linguistic programming. But having said that, I think that all these people lack in, they don't have much religiosity. Giudicelli is an old school kind of Rosicrucian thing. He's more, I see him more.
He's a Rosicrucian.
Yeah, more with a kind of like he seems to have a genuine Christian element in him, which I tested in a very difficult moment of my life. He helped me out. So that is something he did to me personally, that showed me, people can say they're Christians, but then you have to behave like a Christian.
Exactly.
No?
Yeah.
So regardless of all the activities he ever did, this guy, Amorc, Masonry, this and that, but at one point when I was in a very difficult situation with no friends around, nothing, he came into my life and tried to help me out, which he did at that time. So, I mean, even a word of comfort or stuff when you really are, because he had some past experiences with his brother and father, and a very sad story that we will not go into the detail now. But in any case, I wanted to today analyze the New Age phenomena, because it's a phenomena that it's evolving. I think it's evolving, and it's becoming. It started maybe as an experiment with this, aristocratic people, because that was, they were the ones funding the whole thing there in Mount Verità in Switzerland, and all this. They were experimenting all these forms of religiosity, of vegetarianism, of this, that, dancing naked. They even had a nickname for them. They used to call them the Balabiots, who were basically translated from is a term which means dancing naked. And they were dancing naked all the time around this Mount Verità, and they were following, of course, the anarchist theories of Bakunin, of Musham, and they were fundamentally also a little bit, they were nobles, because they were, all the Northern European nobility started to fund this place in Switzerland, which still exists, of course. You can go and visit it. Ascona, Mount Verità, and there is a lot of story there connected to the early roots of the Theosophical movement and also the New Age movement, because I think that was really the most early kind of laboratory. There was people doing modern contemporary dance, and people doing things that were...
So they plant a seed in that place or something of New Age?
Yes. I mean, that was, like I said earlier, in 1889, more or less, that was when it started to evolve in the end of the 19th century, the idea of building something there. from people like Franz Hartmann, and later on you had Theodor Reuss, you had Carl Gustav Jung, you had many people that suddenly, found themselves all in this place. And it became, I think, the laboratory, the ideal laboratory for some. There was Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner is a Gnostic, because he never claimed that Jesus would come back in person, but would come back as a form of spirit. And then you have, of course, many other people, but the one that more influenced the Theosophical Society of the time was this Countess Constance Wachtmeister. I think she was the wife of a Swedish minister, and she was really very influential amongst the Illuminati of the time. Let me tell you, all the people, I mean, you have Carl Gustav Jung, but you have many other people, like I said, that were involved in this whole Mount Verita experience, including Rudolf von Laban, who was this British dance artist, choreographer, dance theorist, who really projected the founding father of what is called the expressionist dance, which is a very important form of art. So,
I have to ask you something. Does this have to do with that tunnel? Did they?
Well, I mean, it wasn't far from that tunnel, definitely.
That's what I was wondering. Because
they
made that, like, that thing that they did in that tunnel in Switzerland was like the start of something. It just felt like it was the start of their, or maybe, manifesting it more, their evil plan, Was that before or after the pandemic, or during?
No, that was before.
See, I think that they
Yes. Let's not say too much. But if you want to know more, the whole story is here on Volume 7 of My Confessions.
I want to get a seat there.
Okay, because we are broadcasting, of course, this live show first on Facebook and YouTube, and then it's going to be relayed on
They could even let us say that without getting
banned. Okay, so if you ever see this video disappearing, you know that at least we have it.
It was my fault.
No, but at least we have it there on Band of Video.
Okay, you can go there and find it. We can't really, we're censored still.
We're censored still. We're always censored, constantly censored. So here we are with this whole New Age movement that then finds also an alliance with a Jesuit, who is Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who is the protagonist, of course, of both Volume 7 and Volume 6.66 of My Confessions. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who inspires people like Arthur C. Clarke, of course, who with Kubrick put together the 2001 Space Odyssey, and then we have, of course, also, like I always said, the Exorcist, the figure which is based on Father Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. So Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.
I had a teddy bear named Pierre Cardin. My mother got it from me from France, and I was really scared of that teddy bear, and I felt like The Exorcist was in it. I wonder why.
Wow.
It was during that time when that movie
came out. I never had a story like this one. You never told me.
I told you last time you said that name. Every time you say it,
Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.
Okay, sorry.
So no, but it's important. He brought into the fold also that Jesuit element into the New Age fold. No, so the New Age, let's say, the movement exploded as a movement in the 70s, but from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, all the milieu, the occultist milieu, but also people like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin started to talk about this New Age. And of course, we said that Alice Bailey was one of the first writers to actually use this word in her writing. So this is basically how the New Age is born. But then the New Age becomes a problem, because it becomes a problem their own interpretation of Jesus, their own belief that Jesus will return only as, this cosmic Christ spirit, whatever. And then you have, of course, the whole, the landscape of the New Age movement today. It's a little bit colorful, to say the least, and it's a bit confusing at times because, like I said, you don't really have an organized, many organizations, institutions, religions, sects, minor religion, let's say sects. Like the OTO is part of the New Age movement. The Amorc is part of the New Age movement. If
So bad.
There is a lot of elements from the occult world that definitely embrace elements of that then after have been championed by the New Age movement, at times, like I said earlier, without even knowing. Now, Emanuel Swedenborg was probably the first to talk about a New Age, but he was also somebody who was talking with the demons, with the dead. You remember we talked about the fact that he even managed to impress the nobility and the royalty of his time by talking with the dead and being very accurate about it. So the spiritism element, we know that the spiritism element was involved also with that Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, which was connected to the roots of the Theosophical Society, that then emanates various groups and movements, amongst them also the Ordo Templi Orientis, and it becomes really the milieu which then kind of like grows the modern Satanism, basically.
That's incredible.
Modern Satanism has direct links with the New Age movement.
That's crazy.
Michael Aquino was a member of the Theosophical Society at Adyar. Michael Aquino, the guy who used to be with Anton LaVey, founding the Church of Satan, and then later on moved on to found the Temple of Set. But it's all behind the rainbows and the New Age paraphernalia.
They've just ruined rainbows and unicorns for little girls. We can't even look at them now. Little girls can't.
I guess so. It's like you have these spirit guides, you have this channeling, you have all these practices. The New Age is basically affirming what the Illuminati were affirming, that man is inherently his own God, is God. That is the biggest sin, I guess, of the New Age movement, because it seems, no? Don't you think?
Yeah.
The New Age says there is no need for redemption.
I never believed any of that, and I always
the final judgment. The New Age holds that each person is ultimately his own judge. He doesn't need.
That is such an empty, sorry life. I'm sorry. That's just horrible. That's just a horrible existence to live. To not believe that there's a kingdom of God, and that not to believe in Jesus,
and
not to believe in any
and
of
any
it.
Messiah, they believe in Christ consciousness and all these.
And what are we just poof and go away?
New Age practices made up of ascended masters. And to tell you the truth, guys, and we had this example very clearly on January the 6th with the shaman. No, the shaman went in the Capitol, and many others who actually had some, the roots of the QAnon disinfo operation have been also within the New Age movement.
Yeah.
It's like, from my own personal experiences, behind each of these New Age gurus, there is lurking behind the CIA in every single. I mean, the CIA is behind a lot of these sects, these orders, these fraternities, this whatever that practice. All these modern Rosicrucian orders are New Age. They're not really traditional Rosicrucians. In a way, they are all in some way New Age. We discussed some of them in the past when we discussed the episode we did on the Rosicrucians. Now we did an episode that you can find, of course, on my channels on the Rosicrucians, and so I think that now we have to also understand the space brothers, the crystals, this. I mean, crystals aesthetically, they are a creation of God. They're pleasing aesthetically, but they give them very much importance, no? Mm-hmm. And what do you think?
Putting your intentions into a crystal and make the world work the way you want it to. Not like, we pray to God as Christians. Pray to Jesus, but it's different. It's not like praying. You're asking for God's help, but you think you can just I don't know. It was just not good. I was putting
First of all, when you are in that kind of ambiance, you might not be evoking demons, but the demons will be coming in your life.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, it's like, you are going into a level where demonic attacks are kind of.
Oh, and our house was popping during that time. Let me tell you. I mean, there was just books flying across the room, incense with just light, just like that. Pooh, light. I mean, all this stuff was happening, and it was really terrible. Terrible. And it was all because of me.
Now, New Agers, how they view Christians? They view them usually as being judgmental.
Yeah.
They view, they have, if we have to really pinpoint on the stereotypes of the New Agers, they think of Christians as being rigidly dogmatic, unforgiving. There is a perception that the New Agers have of Christians that is not really the right perception. No?
Because the Christians will tell, like, all this stuff I've been saying all this time. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that a New Ager doesn't want to hear. And then, they have to, they put their defenses up and they say that we're judgmental.
I mean, they think about their approach to crystals as a sacred science, as a scientific approach almost. No, but they do, because they are.
You learn about each crystal, the properties of the crystal, what the crystal does. I mean, what it's supposed to do, its energy, how it's supposed to affect your life. Yeah.
There is a number in the Bible that explicitly forbids these practices. Deuteronomy 18:9-12. That is pretty much clear with it's
nobody give me any crystals, please. I don't collect them. Everyone wants to give me crystals.
No, because then the thing is that they started to throw crystals at you. I remember people wanting to send crystals at you, and I was like, no, stop all this, because
I didn't take any of those crystals. No. But when we came here, they were trying to get the crystals back in the house. Yeah. When I made it here,
you left them away. No, you left them all away. You left them out.
Yeah. So I just, like, before we came. Well, when we came here is when I realized everything. I had to actually leave Italy and get out of that environment to actually be able to hear God again. I mean, I had to get out of there. And I didn't even clear my mind yet because I had to go through a bunch of other stuff. God always makes you go through the hardest stuff to make you learn a lesson. It's terrible. Like the other day, I said something really terrible about Alex, I said a bad name. I call him a bad name on the show. And nobody sees this. Look how many people are here. There's nobody here. Nobody ever sees our video. We get like 2,000 views. But then all of a sudden, everybody was seeing it because he played it on his show. And there must have been 1 million people that saw me like that. And I was just so ashamed of myself because I said that. And that's not who I am. And I just, in that moment, lost my temper. And I can't even say but, because I'm not even going to say, but I did it because of this, or I did it because of that. I did it, and it was wrong, and I'm sorry. So
now, I'm not saying that in the end, Chris.
But anyway, God showed me. He taught me a lesson with that. When he showed everybody that video, I was like, oh my God, this is a lesson. This is a lesson, and I better learn, and I better listen, I better learn, and I better never do it again. So I learned my lesson. So
now, New Agers are almost always busy admiring their multi-dimensional personality, God personality, their ascension. They are breathing, I don't know what, and they are. Of course, doing a lot of yoga and whatever. I mean, but yoga is not necessarily bad. I'm not even saying that crystals are necessarily bad, because they are beautiful and they can be very pleasing.
Can't you have them in your house? I mean, people have crystals in their house just naturally.
Aesthetically. But then when you go and work with them and you start to identify them, like you said, with the chakra, with the finger, then, you have all these people that are fixated in initiation into shamanic powers.
Yeah, that's
now,
for sure.
Guys,
reaching enlightenment too. That was a big thing.
Taking ayahuasca, taking peyote at the times in the 60s and 70s when there was the Castaneda frenzy, the Carlos Castaneda. Everybody wanted, and still now, shamanic practices. I did once shamanic practice with this guy, but he wasn't really a New Ager. He was actually a real shaman from Norway.
What did you do?
And I took this mushroom, and then he guided me through the spirit. No, he was guiding me through the spirit animals and stuff. It was like a guided thing from a shaman. So it was interesting, but nothing really positive necessarily came out of it. New Age is also about Vika, initiation in so-called white magic practices, which New Age is about initiation in UFO contacts. People are fixated. I see so many people wasting so much time, really. I've been abducted here, I've been abducted there, I'm in contact, I'm like seeing lights, whatever. I mean, it's just like, or like when we came here the first time in Palm Springs, we went to contact in the desert, and they invited me to do what?
Meditate in the desert for contacting the aliens.
I mean, complete.
But then my phone, it flew out of my hand.
I said no.
I was trying to take a picture of a lizard, and my phone flew out of my hand. And then I was like, you're not going, because he was going to leave me with Cleopatra, and that would have been so bad, because that Cleopatra lady was trying to talk to me, and they wanted to take you out. Actually, it was her, too, that wanted to take you out in the desert. It's true. Cleopatra.
Well, like somebody said that each individual yoga pose was venerated, that I thought when I came out of the Illuminati, I wrote many books on these topics, and I've been discussing their practices. So yes, it's true.
Is yoga bad?
No, not if done. Not if done simply as a physical exercise. When you're doing it as Hatha yoga, pradipika, whatnot, connected to
salutation to the sun and all that.
Yeah, all that. It's a big no-no. It's a big no-no, because initiation into higher yogic states of consciousness usually end up with people being completely possessed, and that is a negative side of this whole New Age thing. The fact that a lot of people want to get initiations, that's why they're attracted by the OTO, by just mentioning one, but there can be many secret societies, orders, fraternities of all kinds of shapes that, of course, are controlled by what I define as the Illuminati. And that's why I've been writing all these books, trying to explain all this. So I personally will stay away from yoga and opening, channeling anything or meditating on something that can be dangerous and open myself up. But having said that, you
have a yoga mat.
You can do an exercise that is simply for your benefit, stretching here, stretch there. But I mean, you're not opening your mind to something necessarily metaphysical, while instead the New Age implies an initiation into the metaphysical healing traditions of, I don't know what, Reiki, or, I mean, people who have some benefits from these practices, I respect them, whatever. But having said that, so they're always, it's always very dangerous, no? Yeah. Plus, when I studied Reiki, I discovered that it was connected to the Jesuits in Japan, that actually in Japan, it was like a practice. It comes from Japan, but it was like polluted by the Westerners and by the Jesuits before being exported here into. And then you have, of course, the tarot cards. I mean, the tarot cards can be very important to really understand many things at an hermetic level. At a metaphysical level, it becomes really dangerous, though, when you start doing divination with tarot cards. It's a big no-no. Tarot cards are like a Ouija board. You start opening yourself.
You were holding tarot cards once, and I took a picture of you, and the whole picture went and cracked in half. Like, remember that?
Yeah.
I put it on my Facebook.
Yeah, because I have all these tarot cards about my father's. People have to give it.
And then people love to give gifts.
Yes,
tarot,
and I just left them all at my mother's place. And one day I was picking up one of these tarot, and we did that photo, and literally the photo split in two. In the sense, once it was a photo done with a common
maybe some
camera
people saw it before
from a phone, so it wasn't like. And then you have, of course, like I said, the initiation by the so-called spirit guides.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the spirit guides, because it's kind of like, it seems like that is an open door into the demon land extraordinaire.
What about these, like these psychic people? Because when my father died, I went to a psychic.
Oh my God.
I know, but I needed some answers. I know I was really, and it didn't really give me any answers at all. But I was just going to say that she talked to her spirit guide, and it was an Indian. And then she wanted me to talk to my spirit guide, but I said I didn't have one. And then she was trying to say I had a bunch of guides and that she could see them, and they were a bunch of women. But I didn't believe her. And then she wanted me to go in the mirror, and she wanted me to scry and try to contact my my spirit guide so I can get guidance.
Who?
Okay, it's called investigating psychic investigators, and it was one of the psychic investigators.
I didn't know her yet.
But she finds murders, like people who get murders. Okay. It's called like seeing evil or something. Not like that, but something else. It's a show, like psychic investigators. And she was one of them. And I happened to contact her, and I didn't even know. I just got her number and contacted her, made an appointment. And then she actually saw me, even though she was famous. So, but even this famous lady, I don't know.
Now,
she didn't tell me anything.
Now, in ancestral... In all tradition beliefs, like the African belief system, there is this belief that, you are always, but even in ancient Rome, you have the spirit of the ancestors that always followed you, and kind of like.
Is that not true?
No, but I mean, it happens also in Japan. They are very referent to the dead, and
they have their holidays at the tombs. They make like a.
I think the Romans used to call them the Loki, if I don't get it wrong. And they even had a place at times at the entrance of, a specific writing or a dedication or something. I mean, it's definitely, when it comes down to the modern spiritualist, the idea of the spirit guides, it's present. It's present. It's something, the Theosophists, though, thought that they were not only over human nature. There were some ascended or some,
What are they?
Develop spirits or even entities of some kind. At that point, it's like they live as an energy in the cosmic realm and as light beings. So they kind of pay their own karmic debts and develop. Now, you have to understand, this is the belief of the Theosophists. Now, I'm not saying that I embrace it. I'm just relaying how it is.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'm trying here to explain that, of course, there is a lot here that in the end brings us, though, to the realms of spiritism that we already touched, into the initiation, also into nature of the old religious rites. We of course, that is another subject which we already touched. Initiation is a subject we have touched on this series, which is present in its entirety in our channels on YouTube. So
26 weeks of the occult this year.
Yeah,
So it started in January 1st, so around there.
Nowadays, though, it's really become ridiculous because you have transformational retreats to, I don't know, in one weekend, go to the tombs.
Did you just speak at one of those?
No. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. That was more about talking to people in a retreat, not in a specific place. It was just a hotel with people who gathered there. But here I'm talking about retreats in specific places, like I bring you to the pyramids, the Tomb of Egypt, and for each site I offered you an initiation. This is what they do. I bring you to this specific place, I don't know where, in Mount Shasta, in Sedona, and then I bring you through the interdimensional windows, and then you will, I don't know, get in the end, I don't know. So this is what I'm intending. Of course, I participated to an event recently, and Christy was right to point that out. But there was people who were searching answers, and I was very much giving them those answers because they asked me questions, and I was very critical about certain practices and things that I don't know. In the end, I said, guys, I was very critical of some things that maybe they embraced, but I didn't care because they called me, and
maybe you opened somebody's eyes, and maybe you saved somebody's life.
Maybe. But I mean, they were genuinely interested. They were more like wanting to really know what was happening, and they're more about the awareness. And it's like people are coming out of the New Age movement. And they come out of the New Age movement, after all these workshops on, I don't know, the secrets of Tantra or interpersonal exploration or whatever. And then in the end, they understand that there is something more, though. And some people, there's a lot of ex-New Agers who have become Christians. This I can assure you. In fact, I would like to point out a couple of books here. I wrote down the names in case you're interested in the experience of formal New Agers. And one of these books I read is Randall Baer, Inside the New Age Nightmare. This was published in 1989. and a former naturopathic doctor who was an internationally known authority in the area of crystals, sacred science, and wrote about his experience. And it's interesting. Then a similar book, though more recent, was published in 2018. It's called The Second Coming of the New Age. And it's really, also they are former New Agers, John Peck and Stephen Buckarts. And they explain how the dangers of the supernatural forces that lurk behind the New Age. Because at times they can seem very innocent, these forces. So you don't really, like you said, you don't really fear them, because it's not like you see some demonic, dark.
You actually think you're getting closer to something good when you're doing that, not something bad. I don't know why.
No. I mean, somebody said that they saw on the tarots they had to follow me, and here they are because they are reading my book. Well, maybe, at that point you can place the cards on the side and just read the books and follow what I'm trying to do, which is definitely, I mean, I say that we are in front of a moment in history where everybody is in search of something. And at times, unfortunately, they search in the wrong directions. So, New Ageism, fallen angels, extraterrestrials, and all the rest, it's all part of a package that it's dangerous. So these two books, definitely also another book. I haven't read this book, but I would like to read it. They told me it's a good book. Neville Drury, The New Age Searching for the Spiritual Self, because this book in particular apparently depicts the actual history of the New Age roots, like the one we try to do today. Just not relying only the New Age to something that came out as a sparkle of the 60s. Because there is also, people who just say, okay, maybe because a lot of this New Age movement, became popular thanks to people that were quite popular, like the Beatles, for example, started to follow that guru and go to India and all that. And I talked about in Volume 8 of my Confessions, that whole thing. And that is something that in turn helped very much the human potential movement, as they used to call it. That was then, the George Harrison dedicated himself to transcendental meditation, and then, of course, kickstarted what we know as a human potential movement. So I'm considering, of course, this show today as probably more relevant than other shows I did in the past. So I'm very glad to have also bundled video today for this show, because it's like from this, when it comes to gurus, somebody's mentioning Osho Rajneesh, Osho Rajneesh was a typical New Age product, but he was taking all his knowledge from Gurdjieff, from people like Gurdjieff, especially when it came to that liberation dance. He used to make all these people do, they all dance like this, and in Oregon, and they all became enthusiastic. Osho Rajneesh and Bhagwan and his 93 Rolls Royces paraded, constantly there, and this materialistic element that really pollutes often these seemingly perfect spiritual beings that suddenly seem to be kind of indulging also in the material realm. They seem to like it. They don't dislike it. So the roots of the New Age definitely today, I think, have been it is spreading. We know that there is an antidote to this. We don't say, but because we don't want to say something talking about antidotes. How is it?
Don't say that.
But we have an antidote. And it's called Jesus, and it's called the Christian faith. And of course, if you're Jewish, you can also rely on the Jewish faith. But remember that both the Christian faith and the Jewish faith, as well as any other faith, has been polluted by the New Age. The New Age has polluted Catholicism, has polluted evangelical, has polluted everything, because, you know, I think that even the charismatic movement is very much connected to this New Age development. Now, the word, the etymology of the word New Age, initially New Age was a kind of apocalyptic term, because, you know, you are visioning a New Age in which, you know, you might have the end time scenario, no? Yeah. So it was vision. Then, after a while, it became instead this ideology, this movement, this highway to hell, because that's what it is. So I think that
fast track.
It's a fast, it's a fast track, and the United States is losing a lot of people who don't want to be called Christians anymore, unfortunately. But they identify more with this New Age kind of thing.
We have to pray for them.
Huh?
We have to pray.
So it's like this nation is built upon Christian principles, in God we trust. But unfortunately, this modernism is promoting more and more this New Age that is seemingly filling the gap of that lack of spirituality. Because the thing is, you can take away religion from the people, but the people in the end are drawn naturally to worship something and to seek something that will hold something more meaningful in their life, no? Mm-hmm. So the New Age practitioners don't know that Satan is controlling that whole realm of apparent wonders that they are surrounded with. And they think that they envision the coming of a last and greatest Christ that seems to be, though, a Christ consciousness that is not really a figure. But when it becomes a figure, then they identify it with the Maitreya. You remember the Maitreya thing? I've discussed it also profusely in volume 2 of my Confessions, because it's also connected to the United Nations and so on. But the Maitreya is like this savior, teacher, prophet that really will fulfill every single prophecy of every single religion possible and imaginable. So in the scheme of things, in this enlightened age of Aquarius, if eventually you don't have, you don't fall for the Christ consciousness, you can always be dragged towards believing into the Maitreya and all that BS, which is basically believing in the Antichrist. Now, there is, I repeat, like I said at the beginning of the show, so many false prophets, it's incredible. I mean, we need to understand the true satanic nature of the New Age movement. That's important. And the bottom line is that, in the New Age movement, basically everybody can create their own reality. And it's a bit dangerous because everybody is their own God.
But who's in charge?
It's the biggest trick the devil ever, said is to make people not believe in him. No? Yeah. So it's like they don't believe in the devil. They have this attitude like they wake up every morning, love and light, love and light, love and light, love and light. That was the attitude really that you witnessed yourself when you were within that realm, no? So
I said it a lot. My sister called me a tree hugger. She's like, what is this love and light?
Then, okay, I want to, because we have only 7 minutes here, and I want to really use in the best way possible the 7 minutes to give a last and definitive warning.
Okay, I'll show it.
Okay? No. Absolutely not. No, you gave the best testimony I could ever look for today. No, remember, one thing that I always notice in this New Age movement is money. At the end of the day, the New Age movement is definitely a business, and they will always try to sell you something. So the moment in which they don't ask you to purchase something, you might be dragged into a situation in which then it's actually you they want. And that's how you get absorbed in a New Age sect. So there is the sects that really, are dangerous. We have a variety of sects today, but we also have to understand that there is people who spend thousands and thousands of dollars on New Age junk. Like the people who give money to those psychics or those people who tell them they will give them a blessing or this and that.
Well,
It's not, the New Age movement is not restricted only to a small bunch of crazy people in Oregon with the Bhagwan, Osho, Rajneesh doing the thing. It's not only that, unfortunately. It's something that is spreading a lot. And it's spreading a lot because mainly, I think, because the institutions that represent our religions, no matter what religions, all the institutions that represent the religions in the physical realm seem to be corrupt today. Your church seems to be corrupt. Your synagogue seems to be corrupt. Your mosque seems to be. Every single institution seems to be corrupt.
and the White House too.
And so then you start illuding yourself. Okay, I'm gonna go and shop into the New Age. I'm gonna go and venture myself into the New Age movement because that's where people end up without even consciously knowing they are doing it. That's the thing. A lot of people, I would say that today, the majority of people who are New Agers and are deceived by the New Age deception, they don't know they are actually New Agers. They don't know they are deceived. They simply think that they are actually being very cool. Yes, I read this book by this philosopher or this religious guy, and it kind of the prophecies of the Celestine prophecy. What was that book in the 90s? Le profezie di Celestino, we used to call it in Italian. I don't know how you call it in English. Prophecies of that was a big book within this kind of realm. Let's see if I can find the title in English. The Celestine Prophecy. That was big. The Celestine Prophecy, when it came out, it was massive. It was this 1993 novel, that had all these spiritual ideas, multiple ancient Eastern tradition, all mixed up with this New Age spirituality. And suddenly, everybody was talking about, Leo, did you read the Celestine prophecy? People used to come to me, and I was like, oh my God, these people.
I'm gonna get Rambo.
No, it's like, of course, it's built upon typical the allegory of a character that goes through a spiritual journey, And for people who have never read a book, I remember a lot of people. I'm going to tell in private, but for a lot of people who only maybe read one book in their life, suddenly reading the Celestine Prophecy was like a revelation. Really, wow. I was like, the heck, guys, this spiritual junk, like somebody's saying in our chat. It's just spiritual junk. And then, you know, you had these elements in the book, that these connections also with this ancient manuscript in Peru, out of all places. And so, I mean, that is really, I mean, if a book of, you know, James Redfield, or a book of that other guy, which is that other guy who wrote that book, The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho.
Coelho. Something like that.
Paulo Coelho, yeah. He is another one, you know, he has another kind of approach, because he has the more, I mean, he comes from Aleister Crowley background.
Yeah.
But then he went into with the alchemist in his pilgrim, is being almost a Christian pilgrim of the modern age, but is always Coelho a product of the new age. That's it. So thank you so much for tuning in today. This was Exploring the Illuminati Occult Part 26. It's a particular format, yes, Christy. And of course, this format is only on Saturday, and from today onwards.
Happy 4th of July!
Here I am, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I've been forced to wear this.
Ha ha ha! I couldn't find one for Rambo.
So thank you so much for supporting our show. You can do it through our books or through your donations. I will see you, of course, very soon on band.video, and I will see you next week with my wife here for Exploring the Illuminati Occult Part 27 next week.
Oh, yours move. Mine don't move. Oh, he doesn't like them. He doesn't like them. I don't know if I like it.
No.
It's making me itch.
Eh?
Are you gonna walk around like that on Tuesday?
That's great, though.
Wait, give me my flag. This is my dad's flag. He was a Vietnam veteran.
Okay, this is a very important flag, a very precious flag. It's an historic flag. Take care, guys. Have a great 4th of July. God bless you all. And beware of the New Age deception. Quite like it.
I know you do. You're going to wear it now.
And from Palm Springs, California, that's all. And a little